to the Fiasco Sports NBA season previews. I'm Matt Sampson. Joining me today is Joe Schwab. Before we get started, once again, I'd like to say thanks to Sporties at the Arkabar for letting us film here. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. We've made the trek down and they're nice enough to open up for us each day. So thanks, guys. Links in the description to their Facebook, so check them out and come down, have a meal, watch some sport, whatever you want to do. Awesome. Now, Joe, we've finally hit the home court advantage in the Western Conference. 4th seed, 6th overall, the Memphis Grizzlies. What do you reckon? They had a bit of an injury-riddled season last year, but you know, they're back up there.
Yeah, you're right. Injuries killed them last year. But I love watching the Grizzlies play because they're just such a big physical team. That's how I like to play my basketball. Big, rough and tough. No fancy stuff about it. Just really grind out wins. Yeah,
I mean, they got a team of linebackers almost in that front court, you know. Send them to the NFL and, you know, 7-foot linebacker wouldn't be too bad. Send Marc Gasol into the O-line.
That'd be incredible.
But yeah, last season they went 50-32, which is pretty incredible considering the amount of time that Gasol, like their most important player, missed. And they finished 7th in the West and got knocked out by Oklahoma City in the first round. So that period that he missed really hurt that ranking that they had, the seeding in that first playoff round, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think winning 50 games and finishing that low in the on the list really shows how strong the West is. Like if they were a team in the East, they'd probably be one of the top 2. They would have just about won the Eastern Conference last year.
Yeah, it's really weird the way that the conferences have worked out over the last couple of years, that the East is really weak and the West is so strong. But it's all credit to the Grizzlies to put, I think it's back-to-back 50-win seasons for the first time, especially missing Gasol for I think it was 23 games. Like it's that strength that we've got up there, that grit and grind, and you've talked about the physical bodies, isn't it? That they just have that ability to just pound teams into the ground.
Exactly, yeah. Without Gasol, who is he's the heart and soul of that team. Randolph's a big part of it, but that's like taking, say, a LeBron or someone out of another team for them to still get 50 wins. And yeah, they love that ground and pound sort of just rough and tumble. Zebo loves it on the post.
Yeah, I mean, if they're in the UFC, they definitely would be taking people down straight away. Just hammering away with those hammer fists. Like, we look at their offensive stats, they're 27th in the league, so 4th from the bottom at putting points on the board, which is pretty abysmal. But then they've got that 3rd overall defense, which, you know, defense wins games and they can just grind out teams and make other teams play worse.
Exactly, yeah. To be so low in the point scoring list but still be a contender every year, like we said, they'd be up there in the East. It just, yeah, point scoring is probably the one thing they need to work on coming up to this season.
Yeah, I mean, like 2 seasons ago they went to the Western Conference Finals and only they got swept by the Spurs, but you know, there's no shame in that.
Yeah, that's the Spurs. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but you know, moving on to players they've brought in the off-season, is the one that I'm really interested, which is pretty much the only guy they've brought in, is Vince Carter, who is a guy who's known for his offense, not his defense.
I love this pickup by the Grizzlies, really. It's something he's going to add just a whole new sort of aspect to them. On the offensive side of the ball, like you said, he doesn't like playing a whole lot of defense, but he'll give them that extra scoring option, and he shows, even for an old fella, he's still got it, still comes up when you need him.
Yeah, I mean, he had the really good season in Dallas last year, and he's sort of gone from being that #1 option superstar to really adapting to that bench scoring role. So it's good to see that he has reinvented himself, and it's going to be interesting to see how he fits into this Memphis roster.
Yeah, definitely. It's good. I think he's just that good. He's an experienced campaigner. He could come in handy for a team like Memphis. He's sort of reinvented himself. Like you said, coming off the bench, he could be a real weapon for these guys.
And even in his late 30s, he's still got those hops, doesn't he?
Just still gets it done. He does some crazy stuff for an old boy.
I can't wait to see him pull out the motorbike in Memphis this season. So, I mean, they lost Mike Miller, who hopefully Vince Carter can be that outside scorer for them now, because Miller was really their only 3-point shooter last season consistently. They lost Ed Davis, who he's a really young power forward. Like, you know, he's got lots of potential, but in that front court the Grizzlies have, there wasn't much time for him really anyway. And they've brought in Jordan Adams and Janelle Stokes, so that's sort of like for likes in those players as well.
Yeah, they really haven't lost a lot. Obviously, losing Miller, like you said, is a big 3-pointer, but getting Vince Carter in sort of a like for like, I reckon Carter would almost add a bit more. He's got a bit more athleticism left. Mike Miller's body's just about giving up on him, so they've done really well this off-season.
Yeah, and looking at the 5 guys I've penciled in as their crunch time guys, we've touched on the front court already, which I was listening to an interview with DeMarcus Cousins from Sacramento, and he said that the one team that he hates playing the most is Memphis, because after you play Memphis as a centre, the next day you remember that you've played Memphis.
Oh, imagine the bruises and just, that would be a very physical game.
Yeah, it's like running in between two brick walls on the post there. I mean, you'd beat Gasol off the post, then you run into Randolph, so...
Exactly, no let up. You just got to do it over and over again, time after time, during the whole game.
Yeah, so that's that strength that they really have, because it's such a guard-dominated league now, in that there's lots of fast athletic point guards now, and even the wing players get way more hype than these guys do. But this front court combination, it's sort of similar to we've seen in the World Cup at the moment with Spain, sort of slotting Randolph into Pau Gasol's spot and Serge Ibaka, in that having a massive front line is always dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, the league's going that way of more sort of stretch players, really athletic. This is sort of the old-fashioned game with just big fellas who just grind you down all the time, and it's working for Spain in the World Championships at the moment. So you can't see it going wrong for the Grizzlies this year, barring injuries.
Yeah, another guy who I want to touch on as well is Mike Conley, the point guard, because we've talked about the super athletic point guards that everyone has now, and Conley is a guy who doesn't stand out as much. He doesn't grab that all-star attention, but he's become a really important piece for them lately.
Yeah, I think he's still a fairly young player. He's really developing into the role nicely. Like you said, he's not one of the standout guys like a Lillard or a Rondo or something like that, but he gets the job done. He's almost like an old-fashioned point guard as well, you could say. He just goes in, plays his role. Having big guys like that in the front court sort of helps his job, because he just has to get the ball to them. Yeah,
you've nailed it there, and he plays his role and he does what the team needs him to do every day. So I remember last season when Gasol went out, there was a couple of games he strung together some 30-point games, and then when he comes back, he goes back to distributing and being disruptive in passing lanes and things like that. So he's a perfect glue point guard for a team that is based around that massive front court.
Exactly, yeah. He's a coach's dream. He does what you want him to do, just does the 1%ers, and he's developing as well. You can really see some improvement in his future the next couple of years, just developing with not as much pressure being on him, with guys like Randolph and Gasol doing a lot of the work.
Yeah, and then those wing players we've got there, it's sort of the polar opposites. In Vince Carter's just going to be bombing threes and trying to keep moving up the points ranking.
The human highlight reel.
Yeah, and then Tony Allen, who, I don't know if he gets scared when he goes to shoot the ball, because that shooting form is horrific, but you know, he's crash and bash. He goes at the rim hard, and you can, if anything, you can say he attacks with reckless abandon. So
yeah, just sort of like he defends. He just has no fears, just goes for it. Doesn't like shooting the ball, but still, just his physicality is incredible, and his one-on-one defending is a really big part of that Memphis team. Yeah,
but the key for this team, we've touched on it already a couple of times, but it's pretty obvious that the key to this team is Marc Gasol, the big Spaniard in the middle. And last season he only played 59 games because of that MCL sprain. So came back, he doesn't put up those monstrous numbers that you see from someone like DeMarcus Cousins, but that 14.5 points, 7 boards. He's a really good passer as well as a centre, so really initiating the offense without having to be the one that finishes it.
Yeah, I think you look at Chicago with Joakim Noah, the way he distributes the ball as a big fella, it adds a whole new sort of aspect to the offense. It takes pressure once again off Conley, because if Gasol, down in the low post, can distribute the ball to Randolph or even Carter and Allen out in the wings. Yeah, it's an awesome part of the game.
Yeah, and we saw last season just how important he was for them, because they went 40-9 when he was on the court, and then 10-13 without him. So
yeah, that really says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's that stretch where they didn't have him that really sent them down the standings in the West, because like you touched on, it's so tight in those sort of 4 to 8 spot. So win a couple of those games, you don't have to play the Thunder in round 1.
Geez, that'd be a bonus.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing Gasol coming back firing. I mean, he's playing really well for Spain right now, so he's getting that good warm-up into the season, and he looks healthy is the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think staying healthy will be the key for him this season. He's the heart and soul of that team. If he can put together, I don't know, a good sort of 70, 75 games this year, fair enough if he misses a few through injury, but if he can put it in a really good season, I reckon you could almost say Memphis will be in the top half of the top 8 in the West.
Yeah, well, the thing with coming back from knee injuries especially is you need that time to get your body right. So playing for Spain and getting that mileage under your legs should really help.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but moving on, back to, this is my favourite part of the podcast, is the Believe the Hypothetical, thanks to the boys at the Believe the Hype podcast. Tom Reed, Benyam Cadane, all the info is going to be on the screen if you want to follow them on Twitter, like their Facebook page, check out the podcast because it's some really great stuff. It'd be really worth your time if you give it a listen, but they've provided us with some really good questions so far.
I've been looking forward to this part.
Yeah, we'll get into it. So they've said that their prediction is they're setting the over-under for games that Tayshaun Prince actually does something this season at 0.5 and taking the under.
Well, I think the fact that this is the first time we're talking about him in the team preview really says a lot, doesn't it?
It does. It's a bit of a shame though, isn't it? Because Tayshaun Prince was such an important piece to those championship Pistons teams back in the day, and to see him sort of fade out like he has in the last couple of seasons has just been a real shame. But you know, we'll always have the memories of what he did.
Exactly.
I suppose he could become that humid victory cigar at the end of a game at one point, where you know the game's beyond doubt. Put him in. Doesn't matter if he does anything because you know we've already won the game. But maybe that's been a bit harsh.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. He might just sort of play out the next couple of years as a bench player. He probably won't do much, but you know he deserves that after an awesome career. Yeah,
I mean he's been in the league 11 years already, so you know that's a pretty massive career, and you know he's got that ring, so he can always done more than I'll ever do. But you know, yeah, I have to agree with you guys. I don't think that Tayshaun Prince would be lighting it up this season.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. I can't expect much.
All right, but it's buzzer beater round. We've got 30 seconds to wrap up the team with a prediction. What's your thoughts on the Grizzlies this year?
I like their prospects this year. A lot of it's going to rely on the front court with Randolph and Gasol. If they stay healthy, stay fit, I reckon they can sneak into the top half of the Western Conference and maybe even get home court advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah, my prediction is that the Grizzlies will finish top 4 in the playoffs. They're going to get that home court advantage in the West. They're going to come back. Gasol's going to be firing. Randolph's got a new contract extension. That's not going to be worrying him at all. So I reckon they're going to smash it this year. Really shock a couple teams because, you know, they fell down a little bit last year, but they could even make Western Conference Finals, I reckon.
Definitely a chance.
Yeah. But that's all we've got time for today. Just want to say quickly before we go, thanks again to Sporties at the Arca Bar for having us here and letting us film. All the info is going to be in the description. Check it out. Thanks to the Believe the Hype guys. I've been Matt Sampson. This is Joe Schwab. We'll catch you next time.